Good afternoon, Year 10. It is Miss Duna speaking, and welcome to your ASL assembly for the first week of summer term 2. You've probably realised by now this is your last ever half term in Year 10. I said it would go quickly, and it really has, hasn't it? So, just a couple of thinking points. How are you feeling about your final half term of Year 10? I know it's not the ideal circumstance that we would all like, but we've got lots of exciting things planned on virtual school. So how are you feeling about this final half term? I know lots of you are feeling a bit nervous. Some of you are really excited to get into year 11 and finish everything you've been working hard on. So how are you feeling? Take a moment to reflect on that. The other thing I want you to think about is when you have epitomised our motto during the last few weeks. Now, our motto is and has always been no limits, and I said to you right from the start of year 10 that I didn't ever want you to put a limit on your potential. I didn't want you to think that there was only so much you can achieve, that your opportunities as a student year 10 were endless. You could achieve anything you wanted, and lots of you are, and lots of you plan to. So in the last couple of weeks, whenever you epitomise that motto, it's going to link into our assembly today. If you can't think of an example, then hopefully the assembly will inspire you with it. So I wanted to talk to you today about a word which is resilience. Now, the word resilience and resilient gets bandied about a lot, especially on Teams when we're talking in happiness hour. Lots of you know this word and you come across it, and I want to just talk about it today with you and show you how important this word is. So it's a noun, it's an abstract noun if we're being specific, because it doesn't register on your five senses, but you can definitely feel it and you can show it. So resilience is being able to recover quickly from difficulties. So if you look at our motto, no limits, it perfectly fits in with that, doesn't it? If you face a difficulty, by showing resilience, you are bouncing back from it. You're not letting that difficulty hold you back. You're showing toughness. So it might be examples I've seen on the chat in Teams and on discussions. Lots of you show resilience. So when you've had a grade back in a lesson, so for some of you it was geography and maths, grades that you weren't happy with, you could have let that pull you down and make you feel awful and rubbish and not want to ever do maths or geography again. But some of you have been resilient and said, you know what, I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to bounce back and do even better, which lots of you have, especially in those two subjects I've noticed. The other meaning of resilience obviously links with it, which is the ability of a substance or an object to spring back into shape. So think of it like an elastic band. An elastic band, you can pull it and you can stretch it really, really far, but it always bounces back to its original shape unless you pull it too far and it snaps. So that is the idea of resilience, being able to recover once something has happened to you, being able to recover from it. Now, I want to talk about this word with you today and what it means to a couple of your teachers, and you might ask them about this in Happiness Hour this week when we're talking about goal setting. Now, I've mentioned this to some of you before. Like half of the UK, it seems, in lockdown, I set myself a challenge this year to start running. Now, for you lot, as teenagers that are 14 and 15, and you're all quite like fit and active, lots of you do PE, lots of you play sports like hockey and football, running is like second nature to you. I can tell you now that when you get to being an adult, and I'm not saying like I'm really, really old, because I'm not, but when you become an adult, you stop being so active. And then when you try and start, it is incredibly hard to do. So that's why it's really important, guys, that you maintain your levels of like activeness that you've got now if you can, because you lose it the second you stop. So I set myself a challenge this year that I wanted to start running, and this was back in January. I've mentioned it, like I've said to some of you before, and this is something that lots of people do and lots of people are really, really good at. If you ask Miss Thompson is a brilliant runner. She goes out so many times a week. She's really committed to the cause, and you could ask her about her motivations for why. So I was inspired by people like her, and I wanted to get my fitness up. So I decided in January that I was going to take up running as a way to improve my fitness. But I've had to show a lot of resilience for that. So running is difficult, but it's achievable. So I decided I'm going to have a go. This is going to be my fitness thing that I'm going to try. So it was a new year, 2020. Wow, what hopes we had for it. And I started out, and this is kind of the journey I thought I would see. So I thought that I'd start running like a couch to 5k, gradually build up, and then by like February I'd be running like 10k's, and my fitness would have increased and things like that. That isn't what success looks like. Now, you can probably relate to this. For me, in terms of running, it absolutely didn't look like this. So I started in January. It was great. I was like, yeah, I love this. Feel the wind in my hair. I'm outside at one with nature, blah, blah, blah. And then one morning it was really cold and I didn't want to go. So I didn't go. So that was a little setback. And then I managed to get myself out another day and I got out and I ran and I got a stitch so bad that I had to stop. I've had other days where I've gone out and I've tripped, which has been funny for everyone else but me. It's not been the success story at all that I thought it would be. And this perfectly shows it, doesn't it? Sometimes we go into things and think this is what life is going to look like, this is what my running journey is going to look like, but actually that isn't what it looks like. And the thing that gets you to the end point there is resilience, isn't it? That's what gets you there. Bouncing back, even though I have those challenges, bouncing back is really important. So I decided a couple of weeks ago now, and you'll be able to tell that it was a couple of weeks ago because it was when it was quite cold. I decided to document just a little snippet of what I mean by showing resilience, because now we're in, well, June now, but this was filmed in May, and you can still see how much resilience I'm having to show in order to maintain my running challenge. So if you want to sit back and watch me looking pretty awful, then here you go. Okay, so it's 3:30. I've just finished a day of online teaching and now it's time to go for a run. Haven't been for a run for a week. I really don't want to go because I'm looking outside and yeah, it's nice and sunny, but it's a trap because it's windy as, and it's absolutely freezing and I've got my heating on, to be honest. So I just want to stay in and I just want to watch Netflix and read my book and scroll, but I know I need to go because I know that when I get back I'll feel better. Just realised my jumper's inside out, but it doesn't matter because this has got to come off because I'm going to be sweating if I wear it. So the time has come. Wish me luck. I don't want to go. I'm back. My top and my face are one now. They are the same. That was hard, but okay, like manageable. I normally do 5k. I say normally, like I've literally been doing this for like, well, I started in January and I couldn't run until probably March. So I normally do 5. But I've just done 7, which is really good for me. Like, yeah, I'm proud. And I'm really glad I went. I really didn't want to go because it was windy and cold, but when I was out, obviously you warm up, and you forget, like when you're young, you just walk and run everywhere anyway. Like, you don't know how lucky you are just to be able to do that. It's hard now, like it's actually hard. So yeah, I'm proud and I'm happy that I went. And now I've earned my Netflix. Yeah, might have some chalk. So, a little snapshot there of what my life looks like most days that I go for a run. I want you to think about that word resilience. So, obviously, this is a very small example of resilience, and it doesn't matter how small that example is because it's important that we all show it. How did I epitomise our motto from what you just saw? How did that then link to resilience? So you can probably see that I did epitomise no limits because I could have stayed in and watched Netflix and sat and ate chocolate like I said I wanted to, but I didn't. I went out. How did it link to resilience? Well, going for a run and putting your body through that challenge, because it is a challenge, unless you're super fit like I know some of you are, it is difficult. Your lungs are burning, your feet and your shins are sometimes screaming at you to stop, and to carry on in spite of that is resilient, isn't it? So this is an example of resilience that I've shown and I continue to show, because it is still difficult to do this, and it's something that I'm proud that I'm doing, even though it is a small thing, it doesn't matter. Now, there is another member of staff that would like to share with you a time that they were resilient as well.
Hiya, 10. So, Miss Duna asked me to talk about a time that I had to be resilient and overcome a difficulty. So, I think an example which will resonate with lots of you is your upcoming GCSEs. So yes, I might be able to teach English pretty well, but I found GCSE maths really, really tough. To the point where there were times where I thought it's just not going in, I want to give up. My teachers said you can do for higher tier, and I begged them to let me do foundation tier because I didn't think I was good enough to do it. And I had to keep going. I had to keep pushing myself. I had to keep doing that revision. I had to keep doing practice papers, and I had to keep asking my teacher for help. And without the help of Mr. Bainham and without the help of my friends who said, no, you can do it, just keep working really, really hard, I might have actually given up. And if I'd have given up, I wouldn't be where I am now. I wouldn't have made it as a teacher, because one of the requirements for being a teacher is that you get, well, for me, it was at least a grade C or above in maths and English and science. Now, obviously, it's at least a grade 5. So I might have given up, but my dream and my passion to be a teacher kept me going and kept me thinking, no, actually, I do just need to keep working at it. So it was a struggle, but I came out with a B, so the equivalent of sort of perhaps a top 5 low grade 6. So my message to you, I suppose, here is you've got to keep being resilient, haven't you? So even when things are tough, keep going, because you can do it, but sometimes you talk yourself out of it, don't you? You persuade yourself that you can't do it when actually you absolutely can. You've just got to push on. So for those of you who've got a subject at the moment where you're thinking, I can't do this, I need to give up, don't give up. I am proof, and I know you think I'm about 100 years old, but I am proof that 14 years ago I did it, and I smashed that maths GCSE, so you can do it too.
Okay, so following those videos, there are a few things that I really want you to take away from this assembly, as well as things that you may have reflected on for yourself. The first thing is this: being resilient always has a reward. Read that twice. Being resilient always has a reward. So for all those difficult times that you go through, there's going to be a reward at the end of it. So for Miss Pritchard, it was a magic grade 5 in maths. That enabled her to access further education and employment. It's got her to where she is today. And if I was to tell you my story of GCSE maths, it is pretty similar to Miss Pritchard's as well. For me, with running, a smaller example, it's increasing my fitness, and it's also my belief in myself that I can achieve things. So the reward that I've had is not just that I'm now fitter and I'm able to be more active and live a healthier life. It's also that because I've done that and I continue to be resilient through it, I now feel more confident being resilient in other areas of my life as well. So being resilient always has a reward. But to get that reward, obviously, it will be hard at first, won't it? You won't want to do it. Like, I don't want to go for a run, really, if I'm honest. Like, I don't mind going outside and having a little wander, but I don't want to run. Miss Pritchard really didn't want to do maths. She preferred English. She didn't want to study it at all. So please be aware of it. If you're finding, especially like with virtual school, that you're doing something that you really like don't want to be doing, you know in the back of your head, you know it's for the best that you do it, but you don't want to do it, that's probably building your resilience, isn't it? So whether this is logging into your Maths Live lesson and you just want to avoid it and bury your head in the sand, whether it's submitting health and social coursework that your teacher's been badgering you for ages and you just haven't done it, obviously you need to show some resilience with those, don't you? And think about the rewards that myself and Miss Pritchard have talked about, because there will be one. That's how it works, isn't it? If you put hard graft in, if you do things sometimes that you're not really wanting to do, but you know there's going to be an outcome at the end of it, you're going to get that reward at the end. And the last thing I want to say on it as well is it doesn't matter how small it is. So like some people, like especially people that are really, really good and really fit with their like running and gym and stuff, would look at my videos perhaps and think, oh my god, it's only a 5k, like get over it. But it doesn't matter, because to me it is really tough and it is hard work, and I'm not ashamed to say that. And it might be the same for you. It might be that you're in one of your lessons, it might be history, and everyone seems to be finding the work okay and easy, and you're really, really struggling with it. That is absolutely fine. Everybody is different. If you want to look any more on this, there is a theory about this called the fallacy of relative privation, and it's the idea that one person's problems are bigger or superior to someone else's, and that isn't a thing at all. And we'll look at that in the future, but it really doesn't matter how small your challenge is. It's just important for you that you are resilient, you give it a go. So these are really, again, two quotes that I think of when I think of things about resilience. The first one is this: of course it's hard. It's supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Hard is what makes it great. And that's so true, isn't it? There's a reason why only 1% of the population get a grade 9. If it was easy, everybody would get it, and then it wouldn't be special, would it, at all? So for those of you out there that are working your socks off in virtual school, that is really, really something you guys need to remember, isn't it? When you're finding things hard, obviously that means it's working and it's good, because if it was easy, everyone would just do it. Like if it was easy, everyone would have a six-pack, wouldn't they? So it's, I don't know why I thought of that example, but yeah, this is a really, really key thing to remember, and I always come back to this whenever I'm finding anything hard. And the other thing I always come back to is this: nothing worth having comes easy. And it's so true, isn't it? And part of me thinks about like the journey that we go on. So like it might be in the future that you want to own a certain car. If you could just click your fingers and get the car, you wouldn't enjoy it as much, would you? You wouldn't value it, and you'd be looking for something else. The journey that you go on is really important to that end outcome, isn't it? So think about the last few weeks of year 10. Obviously everything that you do is going to be building to the success that you have next year, and the harder it is often is going to bring you the greatest outcome at the end, isn't it, in a way? So that's something that you might fall back on to reassure you. If you're finding things hard, it probably means that the outcome is going to be absolutely brilliant for you next year. So with that deep and meaningful assembly with some funny videos of myself looking well rough, I just want to leave you with this thinking point for today. How will you be resilient in your final weeks of year 10? You'll see there's going to be more live lessons for you to get involved in. Are you going to be a ghoster again and just disappear? Are you going to say hey and not go on? Or are you going to show some resilience and actually log on and give it your best shot for 7 weeks before you have a summer holiday? Which subjects on virtual school could you show more resilience in? For some of you, it's really easy to see on the Go for Gold tracker. Your teachers are buzzing every lesson. They're on praising you with the reward points. We can see on the Go for Gold tracker that it turns gold for all of your subjects. But it's interesting to see for some of you, you are clearly avoiding certain lessons because teachers have turned you gold in, say, art, but not in English. So have a think, 7 weeks to go until you're in year 11, what subjects do you need to be a bit more resilient in? And maybe don't be afraid to ask for some support in those subjects. Like I've said, no one's problems and challenges are smaller or bigger than anyone else's. Everyone's got them. But also, what rewards will you gain if you put in the work? So thinking about Miss Pritchard's example, now looking back, probably quite a small part of her life where she had to work really, really hard and get the support from everyone that she could. Look at the reward she's got now. and it's exactly the same for you. This is a very temporary time that we're in. So the graft and the hard work that you put in now is going to be worth it. And maybe the way to think about it and motivate yourself is to think about that reward at the end of it, what you're going to get. Is it a grade? Is it a house? Is it simply to make your family proud or to make you proud for yourself? So we are year 10, thinking no limits and resilience this week. Can't wait to see your hard work in all of your lessons. Have a lovely week, and I will see you on the Teams page. Vote for me.